Peace, peace. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Can y'all hear me? Is the video and audio coming through as it should? Let's get back into it now. This is a completely new phase. We ain't getting back to nothing. Just gonna do a whole original video. That's what we're gonna do. Just whip it up in real time. You know what I mean? We don't know, no need for premeditated nothing. You know what I mean? Let's go in. We're talking about karmic debt. Because I did mention in the last video karmic debt. But for those who are not going to watch the last video and you may be just watching this video, karmic debt is basically the residue of your reality. So I will explain and lay the foundation. What do I mean by the residue of your reality? For those who may not understand karma, let me present it to you in a way that makes sense. The undercurrent of reality is what karma is. Karma is the undercurrent of reality. Karma is the things that we push to the back, the things that we try to hide, the things that are essentially unseen, unheard, invisible, but they still exist. And they completely absorb themselves in the darkness because that's where they are. So when you are immersed in the darkness and you have to pull upon the darkness for all of your resources, of course your growth and development will be altered compared to someone who had access to the light or something. In this case, karma representing the things that are pushed into the darkness but still exist. We can best understand this concept through understanding Pisces or the 12th house, using astrology terms. If we use numerology terms, this would take us to the number 7, which is the most spiritual number or the most magical number, denoting the energy of Neptune. Why would Neptune or Pisces or the 12th house, the unconscious mind, why are all these things linked to karma? I'll say it in this way. Dealing with karma, it's like creating demons. Let's just speak real heavy. Let's not even play around here, right? Let's speak in real terms, right? Let's speak about the fun stuff. Creating a demon or a servitor. This servitor exists in the undercurrents of reality. It does not exist in the light. So its operations take place in the quantum world. When it comes to karma, the reason why karma has so much power, it can completely undo anything that you thought you were building. It will completely unravel, or in a way you can say, So I want to say this in real plain terms, but still keep it very magical so that we understand the spiritual component of karma and why it appears to be something that we have no control of. The unconscious mind appears as if we have no control over it. Because the unconscious mind appears to not have any type of discipline, karma manifests itself as a very wild currency. The currency of karma is very Saturn-like. We can even take it to Saturn, which would be the number 8. Why do I say Saturn? Maybe even Jupiter. What do I mean? We have modern astrology. We have traditional astrology. What do I mean? Modern astrology, Neptune rules over Pisces. However, in classical astrology, where they only apply the 7 internal planets, the planet that rules over Pisces becomes Jupiter. So how does this change the dynamics of Pisces, and how does that help us further understand karma? Because all things can be understood through the occult, as I said, numerology, astrology, alchemy. That is the foundation of all things. That is what's going on in the undercurrent of reality. This is why the numerology in your home completely influences everything that you do. This is what people need. I'm going to give you what you need. Fuck what you want. Because we're in our homes, your home vibration, not frequency. Remember, there's a difference. Your home vibration is pretty much the most important number in your life right now, spending so much time in the home. The home frequency, no, vibration. Because let me tell you the difference. The frequency is the results that are produced from the vibration. So if the number, so let's just say it's 4. We'll just use Uranus, right? Let's just say you live in a 4 home. That's your vibration, your home vibration. So the frequency is the results from this vibration. So those results will be the motifs of Uranus, the ideas associated with the number 4. So your home will reflect that planetary orbit. This is why these things are relevant. Your home vibration is not really important when you're spending 8 hours, 16 hours, sometimes even 24 hours outside of the home, or you're only going to the home to relax and sleep. Now, when we are also working from home, we are creating from home, we're doing everything from home. Now the home vibration becomes very, very dominant in our reality, more dominant than it usually is. The subconscious mind already dominates when we are in the home. So we're already more intuitive in the home. But what are you intuitive to? What signals are you receptive to? Well, you have to look at the vibration of your home. This is why it becomes relevant. Because if we're spending all of this time, the more we understand about these planets, these numbers, these chemicals, because you have chemicals. Each of the planets have a chemical or a metal. There's some type of periodic reference to each of the planets. For the sun, you can say gold. For the moon, you can say silver. You have uranium. You have every single element. Where are these things and ideas coming from? I want to make this point because there are people who counter the argument that I put forth. What do I mean? I've said that astrology was in all institutions of knowledge. You had to learn astrology and astronomy at the same time, all the way up to the 17th century. The counter argument is, well, isn't that the point where we came to our senses and realized that we don't need this anymore? Isn't that why we don't use it now? I want to present the counter argument because there are people who have the counter arguments, and I don't want to seem one-sided presenting this because it's scientific and it's mathematical. So there's no need to not explain this in a way that even the skeptic can really understand this from the inside out. So let me further explain. When it comes to knowing not just what planet you're on, I'll put it in this way: what planet you're on. Every time you walk into your home, it's like you are walking into this planet. Every day you are walking into this planet. If you have no idea what planet you're on when you are inside your home and the subconscious mind is dominating, so you are really inside of that currency, and if you have no idea what it is, you have so little resources to pull from, because all you have is physical resources. If you don't understand the invisible currencies, all you have is how the home is physically designed based on the furniture and the architecture, so on and so forth. However, the invisible currency will allow you to do things you otherwise cannot do, because you are in control of it instead of being a victim of it. Is a difference. What do I mean? There are people who are going through hell in their homes right now that they don't have to be going through if they understood numerology. It's as simple as that, but as complex as that at the same time. The occult is very simple, but it's also very complex, because that's not something that you can convince somebody. You have to show them. That's the thing about this. Once you introduce people into these concepts and you allow them to see the results for themselves, there is no more argument, because you allow essentially a plant to grow on its own and they observe the results. You set up the board for them to observe it for themselves. There is no convincing needed. You only need to convince people when there is little evidence to support it. But when you have the evidence, when you can present the evidence, because these are universal factors that repeat themselves originally, but uniquely. That's the thing. For example, we have planetary hours. You have the 7 inner planets, and they are going through their cycles. Every hour, there's a different planet. Every hour, there's a different planet. You would eventually think, well, wouldn't we start seeing patterns if these same 7 planets are, you got 24 hours and you got 7 planets revolving around these 24 hours? Wouldn't we start to see patterns and things that would make things pretty stale in life? Why do we see so much new manifestations with these same 7 energies? Where's the complexity coming from when it appears to be so simple? Why do we have 10 numbers that have infinite realities? How is something simple but complex at the same time? This is essentially the approach we have to have when we see results and we know the means in which we design the board to produce those results. The occult allows you to observe things in real time. You create a servitor and you literally observe the results of your own work. You observe the results of your own work. There is no more luck. There is no more guessing. There is no more giving the praise to anything outside of self when you know that you gave this servitor an intention and it got done based on your own will, because you programmed it and generated that force from within without any outside assistance other than the assistance that you built for it. Just as an example, we're just using intangible examples because we have access to all this power. We just don't know it. We don't use it. We don't access it because we take it for granted. But it becomes more vibrant when we're inside the home, because what else do you have to do? Eventually, the entertainment is not going to be entertaining because, again, you're not really having any new content being produced as far as what it will, people are not going to the studio recording things, and everything that's coming out is essentially has already been recorded. There's really no new content being produced essentially on a massive level. All you have is the creators, the individual creators creating content versus all these major budget movies and things that we are used to seeing. A movie be dropping every Friday. Now theaters are closed, so no movies are being released. So there's no new content other than the content that has already been recorded, and they find new ways to release it. So to tie all of this into karma and karmic debt, just to paint the vast nature of what we're really dealing with. This is why these things are simple on the surface, but very complex once you start to dig into it. You got 10 numbers with infinite realities. We use these same 10 numbers, these same 26 letters every day, A through Z, 1 through 0. Every day, we just find new combinations. We have found a way to combine numbers and letters for every person on the planet. What do I mean? Everyone has, you can say, a birth certificate, and it has numbers everywhere, right? We figured out a way to account for everyone using a combination of letters and numbers, right? We found out a way to combine these instruments that were channeled from the divine and account for everything and everyone. We have defined our whole reality utilizing numerology and the magical alphabets. Magical alphabets and numerology has defined our complete existence. Everything has been defined based off of channels. We were given the alphabets. We were given the numerology, the alchemy, all sciences that we have abandoned now. Because going back to the original point, you have people who can counter all of this and just say it's pseudoscience. Why do I need to care about anything you have to say is pseudoscience? It doesn't follow the scientific method. You will always have that argument. So there will always be a level of disbelief until you introduce them to it. However, most people are afraid of that intimate experience. They are afraid of the intimacy that is required for magic. Magic requires you to be very, very intimate. So when you're talking about doing magic with another person or showing somebody something magical, it is a very intimate experience. This is not something that you really can convince somebody of. You have to, if you want to show and prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt, it has to be a intimate experience, which is what the seances were in the 1800s, where they had to connect the hands and manifest the spirit out of the ectoplasma. For those who even remember that or have studied that, the seances, that's what that. It was a very intimate experience. It wasn't something that was done on a stage. Now, of course, you had your imposters who utilized the occult and destroyed the reputation, and that's another thing. We also see in history that people were utilizing these sciences, these magical arts, for their own gain and corrupted the entire validity of it. That's another thing, which is why it was political. All of the occult science, all things termed pseudoscience, you can literally go on Wikipedia, type in topics that are termed pseudoscience, and they got the whole list. And if you read that entire list, you would see, everything that we consider outside of bounds is on that list. So the list has been compiled. There's nothing new under the sun. However, the only way to show and prove any of that is through intimacy. That's what the eighth house is. That's what the energy of Scorpio is. That's why Scorpio represents the house of secrets. It's wealth as well as sex or intimacy. All things that are done behind closed doors. Wealth, sex are done behind closed doors, and they are very intimate. There is no way to build wealth without a level of intimacy with the spiritual nature of money. Anybody could attract money. Anybody can generate money, but you need a spiritual relationship with money in order to systemize it in a way that generates wealth that goes beyond your death. That's not something that you just figure out one day because you work hard enough. You just figure out how to create generational wealth just based off of hard labor. At some point, your relationship with money becomes spiritual. For most people, let me not say most people, for the select few, it happens naturally because you don't have to concern yourself with it. What do I mean? If you don't have to think about your bills, then your relationship with money is simply a tool. There is no emotion attached. However, with most people, they have an emotional attachment to money, which is why the relationship with money is so up and down, like the tides of the moon, right? The moon influences the tides. That's how most people's relationship with money is. It's up and down, just like the phases of the moon, versus it being more solidified and concrete, something that's not influenced by the subtle changes of reality. The reason this is, again, the generational wealth, the building of wealth, you can say that's more Saturn, right? That's more of an earthly energy, right? Generational wealth, legacy, you can say that's more Saturn traits, so on and so forth. Again, the only way to show and prove these things is through intimacy, which is why the Scorpio is the house of secrets, which is why the eighth house is the house of the unknown, because it's not something that you can understand looking through a microscope and trying to keep your hands clean. You cannot understand magic by keeping your hands clean. However, we have created a system where we don't have to get our hands dirty. What do I mean? You can have scholars who study something in and out and never practiced it. We have a lot of those in today's world. People who know something thoroughly but never practice it. They can know the history of astrology, but not an astrologer. You have a lot of people who have the mathematical and technical information, the historical references and all that. You have people who have the technical information intact, But because they don't believe in it, they don't practice it. There is no internal understanding of anything they study. So the knowledge never becomes wisdom or understanding. You can say the wisdom comes from the study itself, but knowledge is study. But in order for you to gain wisdom, you need some type of experience. You got to go through something to gain some type of experience. And maybe some people do. Some people take it upon themselves to travel. That's what travel is. Some people take it upon themselves to go and see these places that they study. Okay, I'm going to put the book down and I'm going to actually roam the lands and study it with my own eyes. So you have that level where, okay, I want to go and touch it with my hand or see it with my eyes or whatever it may be. Again, it's still all external. But the only way for that wisdom to evolve into understanding is for you to actually be a practitioner of it, which is the final level. I studied it, I seen it, now I must embody it, now I must become it, now I must manifest the spiritual reality of it, which is the final degree. And only then is the culture solidified, which is a very hard process, because when you are completely forging something from the nothingness, you have to be dedicated to it. Like you have to water a plant continuously, or a seed in this case. A seed has to have constant nourishment to grow and develop to the maximum potential. So, this is why magic and all things mystical and magical are not understood and will not be understood, because you have so many people who study and see and travel and do all of these things, but they do not become practitioners of the arts, because only through practition, or only through you actually applying the study and the wisdom, does it actually change you. You have to actually touch it in order for it to transform you, which is the energy of Pluto. Anything that Pluto touches, it changes. But you got to touch it. Pluto rules over Scorpio, the 8th house, which is that intimacy we were speaking about. That's where that comes from. Pluto transforms everything that it touches, but you actually have to touch it. You have to be intimate with it in order for it to transform you. That transformation is not going to come through the study and the travel. You have to touch it, and it actually transforms the DNA and the RNA. It actually goes up into your genes. It influences your genes. Your whole genetic structure is altered. That's when you become a living embodiment of the arts. When it's you, they can look at you. Oh, it works because they see you. They don't have to see anything else. They see you, and you are the living embodiment of all of the things that they studied in books and seen with their eyes, but they were too afraid to touch. When you are not afraid to touch it and embody it, then there is no mistaking the validity of it. This is what we are going towards in these times. This is how we clear our karma. This is the time to clear karma. In order to clear your karma, it requires intimacy. You got to see the stuff that you don't want to see. You got to go into the darkest chambers of your mind and integrate with your demons. The very thing, the last thing that you will want to do, but the most important thing that you will ever do, because you must bring light to the darkness, meaning the darkness must evolve into the light. Light comes from the dark. So that means the dark evolves into light. The darkness is a raw substance. The light is the refinement. The dark must evolve into the light. So from the darkness, from the unconscious, do you become conscious. Your conscious must come from your unconscious, or your ability to cleanse your karma. That's what consciousness is, if we look at it from that perspective. If you look at anybody's consciousness, their consciousness is based on their karma, which is based on the things that they push into the back of their mind, because that rings loud to the intuition, to those who can see and hear and feel. It's this thing that you cannot hide. You may be able to shield it physically, but intuitively, it's written on you like a signature, like a tattoo. It is marked on you because it actually exists. It is a living reality. We have 3 dimensions of our mind. So you can say you're 3 people. You got 10 planets. You're 10 people. You got 12 zodiacs. You're 12 people. We are all beyond bipolar, which is why this life is so confusing to people. Because if you're thinking you're one thing and you have no connection to the outside, the internal does not have a connection to the external, you're going to be very confused. But when you come to the realization that there is a connection, and it is based on your karma, not what you're thinking, not what you're doing. Your ultimate reality is based on your karma, because your karma will eventually lead you to what we call heaven or hell. It's not your conscious mind that's going to lead you there. It's not even your subconscious mind that's going to lead you there. Because the subconscious mind is more emotional. It's ruled by your emotions. And your conscious mind is more logical. It's ruled by your logic and your reason. And that's majority of reality. You got those ruled by logic and reason. Then you have those ruled by emotion. We barely give any credit to the unconscious, because that's where all the fun happens. That's where, if you defeat the residue in your reality, or in other words, if you purify the residue in your reality versus trying to control what you're thinking and what you're feeling, when you're going beyond what you're thinking and feeling, if I actually influence this residue, what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling is going to naturally go in that direction. You're just doing it how it's supposed to be done. That's holistic, because you are not neglecting the darkness. You are integrating with the darkness. And once you integrate with the darkness, you see the effect it has on the light. When you see the effect it has on the light, you understand the importance of the integration. And when you understand the importance of the integration, you have touched the hands of Pluto, and that transformation has taken place. The great work has been complete, because you are the alchemy. You are the magic. That is the point. Most people are trying to embody magic in items and things, when it is you who is the ultimate experiment. That's what people don't realize. They're trying to get results. It's like, you are the result. It's you. You are the manifestation of your magic. Your magic is you. It's not the things that are around you. Because what you surround yourself with is based on your thoughts and your feelings. But what dictates the thoughts and the feelings? That karma, that residue that we ignore, that is completely shielded in darkness, knows nothing but darkness. And because it knows nothing but darkness, the ultimate reality is completely quantum. What do I mean? It's not stabilized. It's not something that you will see coming. Because if you saw it coming, you could predict it. But what about that unpredictable factor, which we call luck or karma? Because luck, you can have good or bad luck. It's like you can have good karma or bad karma, because depending on the nature of not just your deeds or your thoughts and your feelings, it's the residue in which is compiled that is completely shielded, that's really dictating the thoughts and the feelings. So to clear out the residue, to purify the residue, the thoughts and the feelings are purified naturally. But when we're trying to purify the thoughts and the feelings, we understand, or we don't understand, why it's so hard to do. Why so many people find it hard to meditate, find it hard to control their feelings. These things are very complex and hard because you are not actually dealing with the underlying component of what's controlling it all. And once you deal with that underlying component of what's controlling it all, you actually influence all of the things that you thought you had no control over. This is what we call understanding, because you become that which you speak and that which you feel. When you are the ruler of your karma, the karma ruler, there's a whole different reality. Why? Because who rules over karma? Well, if we take it to the Hindu pantheon, we know the goddess of karma is Kali. And we know Kali to be the most fierce. For those who are unfamiliar with the story of Kali, she was born out of war. There was war going on. She was born out of war. She was the ultimate warrior. She killed so much that she developed a bloodthirst that needed to be quenched. It was no longer an option. That bloodthirst needed to be quenched. Just like when you integrate with your demons, you gotta feed them. That's the purpose of integration, but that's what most people will never understand about it, because they will never touch it. Yes, you must feed these demons like you feed pets. They need to be fed. Why? Because that's the undercurrent of reality. That's how you deal with the residue of your reality. You have to deal with it through what we call the servitors, what we call magic, what we call witchcraft, hoodoo, voodoo, so on and so forth. All these things clear or purify your karma. This is why they are valid. It's not what you're going to observe with your eyes. It's what you're going to see in your overall experience. And it is very slow, subtle, and hidden. It's almost out of sight, out of mind. Continuing with the story of Kali, she was born out of war. She developed a bloodthirst that needed to be fed. So she started to kill the gods. So she was supposed to kill, you can say, the demons. But when she killed the demons, she became them. And when she became them, their bloodthirst became her bloodthirst. And that bloodthirst was strong enough to kill the gods. So she started killing the gods. So Shiva became aware of these happenings. And Shiva, being the most wise, figured out a solution. The solution was he was to be completely passive. He laid his body on the ground and allowed her to dance upon him. That's the clean version. So if you type in Shiva Kali on Google right now, you will see Kali dancing on top of Shiva's body. which was the only thing that satisfied her bloodthirst. So that bloodthirst became the dance of Kali, or the dance of death. So Kali performs the dance of death upon Shiva's body, which is the clean version, the dirty version, the erotic version, the triple X rated version. The fun stuff was the only thing that would satisfy the thirst, the bloodthirst of Kali, is Tantra. So if you look at the erotic imagery, you would see Shiva and Kali performing Tantra. And Kali has many hands and she has many devices, while she is mounted on top of Shiva's phallus. So the more erotic version shows Kali mounted on top of Shiva's phallus, because that was the only way to satisfy her bloodthirst. And you will also see in one of her hands mushrooms, because the shamanism comes from India. That's where shamanism originates from. So that was a part of the culture. You're not going to see it now. They completely, took that out. Or we don't want nothing to do with that. But the original dark side, shamanism, was intact. That was the actual reality. So the only thing that satisfied Kali's bloodthirst was Shiva's phallus and psychedelics. Tapping into that unconscious mind, because that's what happens when you do psychedelics. You're tapping into the unconscious mind, which is most people, they just zone out. They have no idea what to do. They're not going to be in any control of the experience. They're just completely passive, which is how karma appears to most people. There's nothing you can do about it. Or the earth is going to have an earthquake. People are going to die. Just like, the virus is just going to kill people, and there's nothing we can do about it. Right? That's the type of, it's out of my hands power that karma has, because it's invisible. So this invisible enemy that they're talking about, that we're dealing with, is truly karma. So when you use this time to effectively clear and cleanse your karma, you will get results way beyond your expectations when you're willing to put in the proper devices and tools in place to make it happen. So just want to lead you in the right direction as to what can be done while we occupy the subconscious mind. All right. We still in here? Everything is good? I think we 43 minutes in. Let's see. Are we still live here? Can everybody still hear me? Is the video still clear? I just wanted to give y'all some intimacy. Yeah, because I don't be looking at the screen. Yeah, I appreciate that, because I don't be looking at you, so I wanted to give y'all the intimacy. You see, it's a big-ass difference, right? When I'm looking you right in your eyes, it's a big-ass difference than now. See, now I'm looking at the screen, I'm looking at the comments. It's a big-ass difference, right? You know what I mean? I see that's the only way I can transmute it. See, I'm giving you the intimacy, because it's a lot that's not being said, that's being transmuted. That things that can't be spoken. So what's not being spoken is being transmitted into the unconscious, as it should. That's the level of intimacy. It's us. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It is what it is. I dare you to find it anywhere else. So unless anybody has any questions, we'll check out. We can do this shit all day. You know what I mean? When it's natural. You see how we just tapped in? I just hit the record button. I didn't know what I was going to say before I hit the record button. You would think I had all that premeditated. Right? You would think I had that premeditated. Maybe it was in a different world. Anyway. So we want to check out. Take the information and build. 1.